The sixth Dragon Ball movie was released in Japan on July 7th, 1990, after Jizz and Butter face Goku in the manga, and after Frieza orders to heal Vegeta's wounds in the anime, between episodes 54 and 55. Its official title is A Super Decisive Battle for Earth. Clearly not the most imaginative title. And what makes this specific battle decisive? Could it be the fact that the main villain is a Saiyan just like Vegeta, except he looks like Goku? I'm seriously puzzled. In any case, I shouldn't judge a film by its title and should probably dissect it properly. First of all, let's look at this poster. As you can see, the Dragon team from the 23rd Tenkaichi Budokai is all here, plus Gohan and Piccolo. This sounds great on paper. Not even the Saiyan arc could put the original gang together. For the first time since Tao Pai Pai sent Chaozu in a coma, at long last we might actually see the 23rd Budokai gang join forces to fight their foes, back to back. It's potentially the most exciting movie so far. This is one hell of opportunity. And they blew it. I possibly sounded a bit too severe last week by considering World's Strongest a missed opportunity. Well, this film surpasses its level of regret by deceiving my original expectations and especially by being stupid at times. But before figuring out the reason behind my disappointment, I'd better take on its positive, starting with Kikuchi's M1000. The soundtrack is possibly what captivated me the most about this movie. The Willow motif sounded good and all, but I feel Tali's motif is more based upon giving atmospheres and solemn choruses, which were more marginal in M900. I think this is Kikuchi's best usage of choruses overall. It totally gives the meaning of a merely ambitious BGM that features tons of crucial peaks, like this Shenlong theme, which sounds completely different from the classic, played when Cell blows himself up in Kaio's planet. This version of Tali's theme being used when King Vegeta challenges Frieza. This lower one exceptional, playing Yoritome's demise in the Bardock special. This nifty track used only once in the Buu arc when Goku and Vegeta tear off his cocoons. This brief yet terrific chorus playing in both of Goku's arrivals at the Namekian battlefield. And this another chorus-centric track used during the destruction of planet Vegeta. This one is such an underrated piece of art, used a few times like when Goku charges his Genki Dama on Namek, and when Trunks realizes how much Vegeta sucks as a parent. Either way, if you already watched the movie, you might know what's the real deal. The quintessential Genki Dama theme, aka A Sign of Hope, aka no words to describe it, it's that iconic. The ultimate outcome of Kikuchi's ambitions. Just listen. As for the movie itself, despite the villain being a Saiyan like Vegeta, which would sound rather suspicious at first, it's likely the least self-referential one up to now, as it actually attempts to provide original stuff that has little to nothing to do with the source material. After all, this is where the Hydra Dragon ordeal began. Gohan's pet we saw only in the Garlic Jr. arc in the anime, whose presence consumes a considerable movie portion to show his affection to Gohan. The first act indeed emphasizes the opposing attitudes of his parents, with Chi-Chi being the intransigent one and Goku the tolerant one, who agrees to allow Gohan to keep his pet. On one hand, while it may not be the most creative setting globally, it is creative for Dragon Ball standards. I kinda enjoy such a discrepancy between the two spouses, because it's real life matter. Goku supporting Gohan as a result does support more slice-of-life moments, with the latter spending his spare time with Hydra Dragon. I can definitely see why they would focus on their friendship that much, so that a specific scene will make more sense later on, but considering that very scene turns out to be one of the movie's faults, I honestly don't seem to care for it that much. What about the camping setting in the opening? That is good slice of life, because it puts the main cast in a more natural, human-like environment. Why does it work? Because it involves characters that we so rejoice and suffer throughout the franchise. So it feels so nice to let them breathe and take a moment to chill out. Gohan and Iron Dragon moments, on the other hand, are slice of life. Not harmful, but feels more like a waste of screen time. Why should I care about your stupid dragon? I know these scenes may look relevant later on, but again, the ends don't always justify the means. All of this consumed time for the sole purpose of that specific scene, which I'll address later in the review because it needs to be ripped apart properly. Just like Mystical Adventure, this movie features a customized opening sequence, which involves Gohan, Kuririn and Tenshinhan searching for the Dragon Balls in order to restore the forest. Seems like a curious trend among third Dragon Ball movies. The idea is kinda nice, even though I don't really get Tenshinhan's presence, because he disappears once the opening ends and only pops up with the whole cast in Goku's house. To be fair, the Mystical Adventure opening was more thought out. Animation-wise, there is barely nothing to comment on. We get both regular and less familiar names. The artistic pinnacle of the film may coincide with Ide, Miyahara, Isada, Shimanuki, Shida, Yamamuro and Nakatsuru animating in sequence, which I appreciate. Content may be questionable and all, but the star power of this half an hour comes off as a massive advantage, at least in terms of visuals. Although Maeda's supervision, which was average at most in World's Strongest, starts slowly showing signs of time, as his traits appear more and more obsolete, as if he tried to replicate Toriyama's more angular approach, while also compromising with rounder features, thus resulting in a hybrid mashup that doesn't look very pleasing. I mean, they might look fine on a frontal view, but those pointed cheeks combined with his round eyes are just awful. The show is gradually sharpening its angles, and Maeda's hybrid compromise simply pales in comparison with the likes of Masaki Sato and Katsuyoshi Nakatsuru, who provide a way superior performance as assistant supervisors. For the same reason Masahiro Shimanuki would replace Tomikichi Takeuchi as Segasha supervisor, and Yamamuro himself would stand out in low-key Shindo Pro. Nevertheless, it's all downhill from here for Maeda. Now, given that Goku, Kuririn, Yamcha, Tenshinhan and Chaozu never fought along back-to-back, the movie poster literally teases us by showing the 23rd Budokai Dragon team at full force, and its initial approach sure is promising. They all fire their key waves at the Shinseiyu, the Tree of Might, and interact with Thales' henchmen. I got nothing to complain about. I like this setup. I like that Yamcha wants them to refund his destroyed spaceship. We'll get to that. Simple yet sufficiently effective. Then, what goes on next? They fight separately. Okay, technically I should address Goku helping Yamcha, but all in all, the movie basically shows Tenshinhan uses Taiyoken, Kuririn launches Kienzan, Yamcha uses Sokidan and Chaozu Blast. Sucks to be him. Nothing else. But did they at least put up a decent fight? Well, not really, sucks to be them, since Goku is able to dispose of Thales' henchmen with just one hit each. The film had one job. They had the original Dragon team and decided to let only Goku stand because the formula told them so. Koyama's bingo scores a 6 out of 9, just like World's Strongest, but with a few differences. While the previous film provided a more choral resolution by having Gohan, Piccolo and Kuririn cooperate before Goku throws his Genkidama, here everyone is out but him, who pulls Genki out of the Shinseiyu's bark or Shinseiyu's ass and fires a second Genkidama at Thales. And I know the gang did actually help the first time, but they were all getting their asses handled by their enemy. They were never an actual match for him, unlike the last movie, in which Gohan and Piccolo could indeed damage Dr. Willow. Speaking of which, if I could save the Piccolo saving Gohan trope in World's Strongest, now it's more like a tedious trend. Let that child alone memes aside, Piccolo was shown sensing the enemy's keys in a previous scene. Then why wouldn't he join Goku and the others? Because Koyama doesn't want him to intervene unless Gohan is in distress. In fact, this has to be the absolute worst use of Piccolo in a Dragon Ball product next to his death in the resurrection of F-Arc. Remove him from the plot and we would lose nothing valuable. It's not a matter of complaining about Piccolo's character, but more like about how he's been handled. First, Piccolo grabs Gohan and Thales roasts him, then gets pounded by Ozaru Gohan and obliterated by Thales upon blocking Smakanko Sapo with his bare hand. Explain me that. This is how to butcher a character. It's no lunch we're talking about, it's the bloody reincarnation of Piccolo Daimao. This is downright atrocious. Moving on. For once, the Kuririn humiliation cliché is unchecked. Don't worry, it's coming back in the following movie, as it's replaced by an absolute evergreen, the everyone hates Yamcha trope, which was introduced in the filler section of the Red Ribbon arc during his drama with Bulma. In that case, I did enjoy Oolong and Puar supporting him sincerely, whereas here, he's scolded by Bulma for wasting his money on a spaceship, which was destroyed by the blooming of the Shinseiyu. And then, he's verbally roasted by Chi-Chi after volunteering to help Gohan with his homework, with everyone laughing at him. No, I didn't say laughing with him, but more like laughing at him. First, why should Bulma yell at Yamcha for spending his, not hers, his own fucking money? Shut up, bitch, this is my money and I decide how to spend it.
You're not my fucking mother!
Second, why is Chi-Chi so fucking rude? Yamcha is such a nice guy, he offered to help Gohan, why so disrespectful? And why the frig is everyone laughing at him? Look, I've had a terrible day today, please do me the favor of not making fun of my misfortunes. Find better friends. And a better script. These unnecessarily mean-spirited moments are bad slice of life, whose sole purpose is to make specific characters more miserable and or insufferable. Such an issue we also find in Dragon Ball Super and in Dragon Ball Super Broly, by far its worst part. Just shut up. Speaking of insufferable, Chi-Chi is a sheer pain, even worse than in World's Strongest. And yes, I did say I enjoyed the discrepancy with Goku, but it would be so much better if the movie decided to disapprove her behavior, instead of thinking of it as some sort of hilarity source, which is inconceivable. But no, her attitude is never questioned, they only stick to the even a Super Saiyan fears his wife kind of bullshit, which is also kinda sexist if you ask me, because men are so funny when they suffer. Next. For instance, how do you pronounce the villain's name? Which one is more correct? The Japanese? Or the English one? Between Thales and Turles, I think the latter pronunciation is the more suitable. Just mute the R and replace the T with a D, and there you have the actual pronunciation, dullest. Jokes aside, on one hand, this is where the recycling Goku model trend debuted, and unlike Bardock and Goku Black, Thales' sidelines are open like Goku's, which gives quite the idea of the movie playing with the resemblance to the fullest. After all, he states low-class Saiyans tend to look like each other, which automatically explains the origin of Goku's model. For the same reason, I can buy why Thales wouldn't choose to become a giant gorilla after creating an artificial moon, since he likely wouldn't be able to control it, as seen in the Budokai Tenkaichi games, 17 years after the movie release. It's never implied in actuality, you simply have to deduce it. Although, why does his Power Ball effect still last that long, even upon blowing up? If so, why did Vegeta never blow his own moon up in order to stop Ozaru Gohan's rampage, instead of procrastinating for an hour? And Vegeta is supposed to be the elite warrior, yet Thales' Power Ball has a never specified duration. We will never know how long it would last, since Goku would simply cut off Gohan's tail. By the way, they normally describe Thales as a Goku that never bonked his head, so he would be a boring villain. For being a full-fledged Saiyan, Thales is indeed such a bore. Why? Does it have to do with eating the Shinseiyu fruit to gain more power? No, it's not about that, but more like on why he would plant this tree on Earth. Say what you like about Garlic Jr. and Paragus, but at least they both had a motivation, as much as the revenge kind of plot wasn't the most imaginative. What about the others? Raditz' motivation was reprimanding Kakaroto for not wiping out mankind. Nappa and Vegeta's motivation was gathering the Dragon Balls to acquire immortality. What is Thales' goal? Planting a tree just because. The fact this character lacks a point clearly doesn't make him any better. On top of that, he's just generically evil, not as ruthless as Nappa, not as manipulative as Vegeta, and of course not even as charismatic as Frieza. Say what you like about Goku Black, but his goofy and over-the-top skits gave him memeable powers, which at least provided fair entertainment in spite of the numerous flaws of the future Trunks arc. Thales is the antonym of that. He simply gets by for being Goku's bad clone, because he's just as boring as Tarbell. And unfortunately, his henchmen managed to be leagues more forgettable than him. What stands out about them? Maybe their designs and their names related to dried fruit, and that's it. They only dispose of the Dragon Team only to be knocked out by Goku alone, according to the aforementioned dictates of the formula. Speaking of which, it surprises me that Koyama moves away from the manga callbacks to provide relatively new content. In fact, it seems to me like he wants to contradict Toriyama in multiple occasions, like when he decides to have Goku deny his Saiyan origins by telling Thales he and Gohan are Earthlings. Though he bluntly stated to be a Saiyan on Kaio's planet, but in hindsight, I actually don't mind this, since I should not expect coherency from Toriyama's product, and considering Goku would acknowledge his Saiyan origin before facing Frieza, and would refer himself as Kakaroto in Dragon Ball Super Broly, I clearly can't see this as a problem. There is still room for development. Then there is one scene in particular involving Ozaru Gohan squeezing Goku tight, who calms down once he recognizes Higher Dragon. This is what I call a very poor attempt to distance himself from the manga events, since of all the moments Koyama could have chosen to go ahead, he chose the least appropriate of all. Having Ozaru Gohan stop his rampage upon recognizing his pet might work, by virtue of the slice of life in the first act, if only it didn't include ignoring his own father's yelling while he was constricting him a few seconds ago. Sorry, can't hear your pain because you're yelling too much. Do you recall what happened in the Saiyan arc? Was that Gohan could still hear Goku's voice? Nah, that's impossible. Here he can't even hear him while he's holding him between his fists. That giant gorilla stopped his shit upon helping his pet is known since this morning, whereas he didn't even hesitate to crush my bones. How come does it make him so happy? This scene is a pot filled with stupid. If they had Gohan stop upon hearing Goku's yelling, and then the dragon appeared, I would never complain. Being original is one thing, but neglecting logic? Just skip this. Lastly, the ending. No comment. A crystal clear outcome of the status quo kingdom, as the Genki Dama obliterates Thales, causing the Shinseiyu to disintegrate and give its energy to the planet back. Because film events bring absolutely no consequences to the story. The world is healed and everything is back to normal, yeah! Nonetheless, my final rating will still be pretty generous, as no matter how much of a letdown this movie was, I still don't consider it, and most of all can't consider it, a theatrical bottom. Throughout this video, I've been thinking of placing this in the OK tier, but on second thought, I'd better place it in the improvable tier, by a narrow margin, since the next couple of years isn't going to be a breeze.